Hello and welcome back to Norty's Forgotten Flicks. Let's go back to 2009. That year, a little film was released called Moon, where Sam Rockwell played an astronaut working on a station on the moon. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's creepy, dramatic, but also has some good humor and goes in ways you would never expect. I could easily do a review of that, but it's become such a huge cult classic the past 10 years, and got so much praise and awards that it seems pointless. However, the movie's director, Duncan Jones, aka the son of the late great David Bowie, yeah, that blew my mind too, directed another film 2 years later that I think is even better than Moon, and while it did well at the box office, I think deserves more attention. And that film is Source Code. Source Code is a 2011 science fiction movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal as a US Army pilot named Coulter Stevens who wakes up on a train not knowing how he got there. He notices that no one else sees him as him. After a little while, the train explodes from a terrorist attack, and he wakes up in a small cockpit, and it's revealed that he is actually being used by the government to go into a kind of computer simulation called a source code, where he is tasked with finding the bomber. So he's sent back again and again to relive the last 8 minutes before the explosion in order to find the culprit to prevent another attack. I love time loop stories. Edge of Tomorrow, Groundhog Day, the Happy Death Day movies, Sunset's Backstage Pass, that one segment from Ricky's Once Upon a Christmas. You could even consider Run Lola Run in that genre. There's just something interesting about reliving the same events over and over, and only one person knows about it. And it's an idea that can be used for so many different genres. Whether a drama where two people can build a relationship, a horror with somebody being stalked by a killer, or a mystery with a guy trying to find out who committed a terrorist attack. But most time loop stories follow the same deal. The lead can live through the whole day and will either die or make it through until they eventually wake up reliving the same day. But this is different because Coulter has a time limit. He has 8 minutes each time to find clues, learn about the passengers, and try and figure out who the terrorist is. Even if he gets off the train and survives, he still has to do it all over again. So it adds a little extra suspense, and as he keeps getting sent back, we learn a little bit more. And through that repetition, we also learn more about a woman on the train named Christina Warren, played by Michelle Monaghan. Her and Coulter start to build a little chemistry, but of course, tragically, he can't save her for real as she's already dead. So some of you may be wondering how this source code works.
When a light bulb's turned off, there's an afterglow, a lingering halo-like effect.
The brain is like that. Its electromagnetic field remains charged just briefly, even after death.
Now, there's another peculiarity about the brain.
It contains a short-term memory tract that's approximately 8 minutes long, circuitry that remains viable post-mortem, and a memory bank that goes back 8 minutes. Source code enables us to capitalize on the overlap.
Science! Yeah, we're in Jurassic Park science territory where they use science language to sound just believable enough until you actually think about it and realize none of it makes sense. But hey, it's science fiction, that's part of the fun. However, it's not just a science fiction film, it's also a dramatic thriller. I got invested in this guy's life, and the more we learn about him and why he's there, it gets pretty sad. And Gyllenhaal is great. Given that he's such a big name now, we may forget that after Zodiac in 2007, he was mostly in a bunch of forgettable flicks that got mixed reviews. But after this movie, he seemed to get really lucky with roles through the rest of the decade. Also, there's a character named Rutledge, played by Jeffrey Wright, and I just love the way this guy talks.
Captain, I cannot imagine what you must be feeling right now. But if we're to prevent a second attack, we need to send you back immediately.
I also like the way it's directed and edited. It's quick-paced while allowing for character development, and it doesn't outstay its welcome. There are a few funny moments too, not much, but Stevens going crazy at people and accusing everyone of being a terrorist, that got some laughs. So when it comes to my favorite scene, I'd probably go for the third attempt when he actually gets off the train and follows a guy who he thinks is the terrorist. It has all the elements that make the movie work. It's suspenseful because you don't know if he is the terrorist or not, kind of funny because he's basically stalking this guy, and has some decently choreographed action.
What are you doing? Give me my backpack! You crazy son of a...
Sean?
Get back!
Sean, what are you doing? Sean!
You're in the phone!
Stop it! Sean!
It wasn't you.
Although, they do say the source code only lets him live for that 8 minutes before the explosion, and yet he lives for like a solid minute after that. Now, of course, you can't really talk about this movie without mentioning how much people dislike the ending. Most people seem to really like this movie, but they also agree that the ending is a deus ex machina that makes no logical sense, and they're kinda right. I won't spoil it, but looking at this even by the rules the movie sets up, it doesn't make sense. However, I kind of like it. It's one of those breaks logic but for a good cause types of endings. So yeah, Source Code is a great movie. It's thrilling, suspenseful, has a great lead, and an emotional pull. It adds something new to the time loop story and is nice and quick at only 90 minutes. Me personally, I like it better than Moon, and even though I never saw Warcraft and Mute was a huge disappointment, I'm still looking forward to whatever Duncan Jones directs next, which is apparently going to be based on some science fiction comic called Rogue Trooper. That sounds fun. Well, I can finally put this movie past me. I've been waiting to do it for years, but I've finally talked about it. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Hello and welcome back to Norty's Forgotten Flicks. Let's go back to 2009.
Do you have the internet on your phone?
No. It's just connected to the office by a really long piece of string.